Hi, Michael. Thank you for agreeing with this interview. It's great to have you with us in the business. I know you deliver a lot of value to organizations and companies. Can you talk a little bit about yourself?
In terms of
Well,
career?
who is career? Who is Michael? What brought you to here to becoming someone who delivers on leadership and training and development? How did you start? How did it all start for you?
Yeah. Without going too far back, basically, when I became involved with working for a living, obviously, I quickly progressed through from kind of frontline staff level to assistant manager and then management. I was in facilities management. And simultaneously, I was getting really interested in the academic side of management leadership. And I found the more I involved myself in research and study of these topics, the more it translated into concrete actions in the workplace. And I felt I was recognised for that. And within quite a short period of time, actually, I became assistant director. But I was torn because I was getting into education in such a way that I was now studying master's level. And I actually took time off work to study a master's full time. And then when I returned to work, I really felt as though, although I'd see a good career path mapped out, I felt that it just wasn't stimulating enough in terms of development of myself, being creative enough. There was a lot of kind of mundane work, too much mundane work actually. So I made the decision to start working for myself in 2001. And at which point I started to get involved in researching for a PhD as well. And since 2001, I've been in continuous work, delivering training and consultancy. So obviously that's 19 years now.
But there is a transition that from being a practitioner to become an academic. Do you need that is necessary, or it was something that you always aspired to become? Why to become an academic in one way?
Well, you've said to become an academic, which reminds me, actually, I forgot to say, since I've been working for myself since 2001, I've always worked in universities at least one day a week. And often, we hear people say, oh, what's the best experience or an academic type of education? And I think that's the wrong question, because I think they're so interrelated that to have a weakness in one or the other area is really problematic. So I saw them as complementary always from a very, very early start in my working life. So they're always complementary, and it's not one or the other. It's got to be both.
Complementary, yeah, because we both deliver strategic level works for organizations, and we've done that in a more personal way within different organization companies and also for the university. So they are very much interrelated. But when I met you, particularly at that time, you were talking a lot about value creation. Why did you get into it, and why is that important for organizations?
Well, you've hit on a really interesting point, actually, because I'll talk about with great passion whatever I'm really particularly focusing on at that point. And for a long time, I used to think it's really important to specialize to the point where you're the leader in a field, and people will come to you for your specialist knowledge. In time, because I've become interested in so many different areas, value creation one being what I did for my PhD, I've become interested in so many areas that I now think it's actually a great thing to study many different topics. And I feel for sure I've reached a level, and I just want to make a point, when I talk about levels, it could come across as arrogance. However, I believe that we know nothing. That's one of the key points. The more we educate ourselves, the more we realise we know very little. Conversely, we know lots, and we go out and practice it and help organisations. Value creation is as one of the topics I study, but I want to make the point, I think everything's interrelated, and I think that gives a real strength. Now, when it comes to organizations, obviously we hear the word added value, or how can company X add value to their offering.
Yes.
And the research that I conducted, actually, it's, that's kind of considered an outdated way of approaching things. Actually, it's how can the provider add value for what the customer desires, this type of routine. And in that particular area, organizations who are moving forward, we hear them talking about co-creation of value. And even that, I would argue, is being, fairly outdated from about 2006 to maybe about 2010, where value co-creation is kind of working together to create value for each other. But a good way of looking at value creation is how can we as an organization support the value that our clients seek. Now, if our clients are seeking to improve their organization, then we can support them in their endeavors to do that. Now, it might seem a subtle change, but that's quite a significant difference, because what we're doing is we're throwing the onus on the client and the organization to create their own value and bring together various resources. And of course, we input into that as well. That helps them take ownership, really, of what they're trying to achieve. And this permeates throughout everything I do. So, for example, if it's training, it's always about getting interactions and dialogue. And actually the word is polyphonics, multiple voices, where we bring in multiple perspectives.
Let me interrupt you there, because for those who are watching us now, say, who delivers or who creates that value, who is responsible within the organization? Is this customer services, sales, is marketing? Who is there at the center of this value creation within the organization?
Well, it sounds a cliche, but actually value creation would be everybody's responsibility. But again, the subtle difference in terms of supporting whoever their stakeholders are in the stakeholders achieving value for themselves. Obviously, in hierarchical organizations, then it's got to come from the strategy of the organization, the core values that the organization should not only embed but actually live. And if they don't do both of those things, the values are meaningless. And then we get into the work we do, whereby if it's not communicated and trained and embedded throughout the organization, then it just becomes the old cliche of the provider does the best they can in a hit or miss way to try and second guess what the end user, stakeholder, whatever requires. So for me, organizations internally are always collaborative, or should be. Obviously, there's a lot of silo working. So getting an organization to be collaborative, to be people, stakeholder focused, centric, and then working closely with their end users. So as a quick example, if we look at what, just as one stakeholder group, the customers do, the customers become lead users because they are very close to what they require. And if an organization doesn't help support what the lead user wants, the lead user will actually innovate and create for themselves. So for example, if there's a long queue and the organization's not recognizing that people don't want to stand in a queue, what they'll find is, one, the customer will go elsewhere, so they innovate by going to another organization, or the customer might innovate by circumventing the queue. Can they get to where they need to go without standing in the queue? Now that's one simple isolated example, but customers, if we watch them closely, will tell us in a sense how to support them.